Welcome to the Creator's Adventure, where we interview creators from around the world hearing their stories about growing a business. Today's guest is going to help you identify and conquer the fears that hold you back in your business. Hey everyone, I'm Brian McAnulty, the founder of Heights platform. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, we're here today with Brad Axelrad. For over a decade, Brad's been an event producer, consultant, strategist, podcast host, and having produced over 150 live events with top business leaders and best-selling authors. As a consultant and speaker, he utilizes his message to support coaches, visionary entrepreneurs, and consultants by helping them create the business that sets them free to live a life of fulfillment and truth. Brad, welcome to the show.
I'm super honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. So my first question for you kind of aligns with the end of that introduction is, what's the biggest thing that either you did or you are doing that has helped you to achieve the freedom to do what you enjoy?
Figuring out technology, it's sort of this double-edged sword. Like we have this love-hate relationship with tech, but as we were joking about earlier, as I'm running around sweaty trying to get things turned on, the electricity's been off here, and obviously we need Wi-Fi and tech to live our lives and to set ourselves free. So I'm currently living in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, just outside of there, and as so many of us digital nomads and entrepreneurs do, we're able to live and move about. But the reason I'm saying tech first is, in my experience of working with so many people throughout the years, like there's this incredible frustration. Like we know that it's our greatest gift, but it's this like ball and chain. We're chained to our technology, and yet it can totally set us free. So it's finding that balance, understanding what technology to use, how to outsource a lot of these tech things to find people that are in their genius there. That's kind of what comes up for me right off the bat.
Yeah, that's interesting. Personally, I enjoy the tech a lot.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't go right, no doubt, it's frustrating. And
Exactly.
as soon as you lose power or you lose internet, like you remember how important all these things are. But yeah, definitely without technology being what it is, like we wouldn't be able to have the businesses that we have and the freedoms that we have, being able to do them. Do businesses like this from wherever. So definitely agree with that.
Yep.
So you help coaches and consultants transform their struggle into strength by facing their fears. Can you share maybe a personal experience of where you turned something that was a fear into a powerful asset for yourself?
Well, as I take a breath right now, like public speaking is the number one fear above dying. And, I come from racing semi-professional motocross and doing extreme sports and pushing the edge in every aspect of life, anywhere I could. And even with that courage and that bravery and the ability to face my stuff and to lean in business, in relationship, in plant medicine, in all the things, public speaking was still, and probably still is my greatest fear. Like I'm even nervous and excited right now. But the founder of Gestalt therapy says that fear is excitement without the breath. So most of the time we're just not breathing. When we're going to get excited, we're getting on stage, we're going to get interviewed on a podcast. And I've just booked myself on 20 podcasts in the last couple of weeks here. This whole month of August and into September is podcast interviews. And I still get excited. I was going to say I get scared, but it's really excitement. I'm just, we have all these chemicals coursing through our brain and through our body that we can use to our advantage. Like when I was sitting on the start straight racing motocross or skiing down a double black diamond in Lake Tahoe or Colorado, like you've got to be on. So we get to use the chemicals and pump us into a flow state if and when we learn how to sort of rechannel and transform all that's happening in our nervousness. So there's great power in our excitement, I was going to say, in our fear and in our nervousness. But overcoming the fear of public speaking, I would say it's set me free. It's given me everything I've ever wanted, and just really embracing it and enjoying it and having the energy with it now.
Awesome. Well, how would you say like that shift in perspective on that fear allowed you to become a confident speaker? Like, yeah, tell us some more about that. Like, because now you've done what, over 150 live events. That's a lot, you know?
Well, I've produced over 150, over 200 at this point, and spoke at all of them. I was either
Hmm.
the MC or co-MC or a speaker, but I've actually spoken on over 300 stages. At this point, it's probably 350 stages, mostly live, probably 230 of that live, and the other 70 is podcast interviews or something else. So, you know, there's beauty and mastery in it. The more you do it, the exposure therapy, the more you embrace it, the more you kind of lean into it and learn to love it. That's when it really gets into this powerful place of flow. I'm sorry, I forgot the question there as you asked it.
Yeah, just well, how do you feel it's made an impact on you now that you can take what was a fear and leverage it in your business?
Yeah, I mean, basically being able to set up the automation I have and really get myself on all these podcasts, for example, is a huge opportunity. I get invited on stages as well. I mean, they're the highest paid people on the planet, as you guys know, as coaches, speakers, entrepreneurs, like public speakers are the highest paid on the planet. So getting paid gigs is a little more difficult, especially these days, but certainly that's a possibility. But knowing that we could share a message on social media and on a podcast like with you today, I mean, there's great power there.
Awesome. Yeah, so I have a question I'm kind of curious about. I'm betting that our audience would be curious as well. I saw on your website that like you've been mentioned by like some big like press. You're talking now about going and doing all these podcasts, of course, speaking on stages. I'm curious, like what had the biggest impact for you in terms of your business, as far as, I guess, let's say like impact in the sense of not like the long-term credibility or something, but like impact in the sense of like maybe more the short term of like got some awareness or got clients for you, things like that.
Mm. I do want to speak to the media piece because that's big. You know, I was on NBC Nightly News, PBS Television aired out to 8 million people. USC News did a piece on us. LA Times, Orange County Register, CBC News Canada, like massive media storm because I had positioned myself correctly at the right time with the right press release, with the right language, and just really leveraged the media wave there. And so that was huge. I mean, like you said, it was a credibility booster, but also it launched me into just massive exposure. Now, the thing is, back in 2007, when I attracted most of that, I didn't have the funnels. We didn't know what ClickFunnels was. It wasn't around. Of course, there were marketing funnels, but I was sort of pre-internet marketing at that point. I was a marketer. I was producing events. I was marketing events, getting on media, getting on stages, being interviewed all over the place. You know, really was a quasi-local celebrity in the Orange County area for about 7 years. LA, Orange County, San Diego, kind of built a little mini celebrity there for a while. It was cool. But I'm saying that to say that there was opportunity in producing events, creating community, building regular events. That was a huge opportunity, credibility and opportunity. I had a platform. I could bring big name speakers in. It's something I recommend to my clients. It's great to have courses and use software like you guys have. I've got a course, several courses, super important. But the monthly and or weekly live event can really blow up your business, especially now that we're out of COVID. People want to come out. They're tired of Zoom. They're tired of watching you and me sitting on these things. Like, they're ready to meet people. The good thing is COVID got us all really used to using technology and online courses and things like that. And Zoom, it really launched us all into that even more. But the short answer is live events, building credibility, creating your own physical platform and your digital platform. But I'd say I'm one of the foremost experts in these community-centric, community-driven sort of conscious business networking events. We can talk more about that. That was a fun ride way back a couple lifetimes ago.
Cool. Yeah. Well, so I guess then the follow up is kind of, do you feel that now is the best thing for an entrepreneur who says, okay, I want to do something to grow my business, my network with all of this, is to potentially try like being involved in these live events or getting press or going on podcasts? Like if you had to pick one thing for them, what would that be?
Mm. Just one, boy, I
Yeah.
gotta do them all. Uh, Launching a podcast is going to be a slow burn. I'm gonna kind of say what I wouldn't do first. Podcasts are great. I had one. I'm in season. We'll be launching season 2 soon. I had Don Miguel Ruiz of the Four Agreements is guest number 1. Gay Hendricks was guest number 2. Like JP Sears, Ariel Ford, huge celebrity guest friends of mine on the podcast. That's a slow burn. It's a long burn. So I wouldn't do a podcast. I would probably get interviewed on other people's audiences like this. This is sort of a faster way to either get on a stage, which is kind of hard to do for some, but getting interviewed on a podcast, that's a little easier. So I would probably consider that. But if I were to do one strategy, not including social media, we always need to be doing social media. That's just part of what we do. But sort of these bigger rocks, these bigger things, I would create an absolute monthly live event that every first Wednesday of the month, these people know that when they come to you in your city and they know when they come to this event, they're going to be treated really well. And the event is about we. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about how can they benefit absolutely way beyond what they ever imagined they could by coming to this $25 3-hour event. And that's the one strategy, other than having them do a 90-day sober celibacy, the one core strategy that I recommend people do is create a monthly event, my clients in particular.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. We started ourselves actually this year. We do monthly live workshops with guest speakers, and
there you have it.
These are online still because our audience is more global.
Yep.
I think it would be cool to do it in person one at some point in the future. Get into that, but
Nice.
yeah. So then, what's the next step then? Let's say like, okay, I want to take your advice here. I want to start this event. You mentioned there's like $25 to have people get in. Then what's like the goal after that? To like build them as a community? Like, are you going to pitch them something there? What happens?
Really good question. So again, focused on the go-giver, not go-getter. We're not trying to get from this. We're really focused on making sure everybody's really feeling and experiencing being served at this event. So I'll just say the structure and then kind of answer your question after that.
Sure.
So the structure that after doing, I don't know, probably 30, 50 of these, really figured this out. And it's 3 hours long. It's from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., middle of the week. Wednesday's good. Don't do it Monday or Friday. It's better middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And the first hour, because people only see 6 p.m., so they think, oh, I can show up at 6:30, I can show up at 7. So what I realized was that starting it at 6, but they don't realize that the event actually doesn't start until 7. 6 to 7 is open networking and mini expo. It's just open. Everyone's hanging out. There's food there. Just use the money that you get from the tickets, like 25 prepaid, 30 at the door. Things are a little more now, but people are also a little more strapped financially. I would, do it somewhere in that range, 30 prepaid, 40 at the door, something like that, just to cover your expenses, bring in some good food, good drinks. I like alcohol-free places. I wouldn't get into the alcohol thing. I would just do that. So the first hour is open networking mini expo. Second hour, 7 to 8 p.m., is structured networking. So that looks like you doing a networking processes to make sure everyone in the room is meeting as many people as they possibly can. And I actually partnered with a company way back in the day that's still around. It's called CEO Space. It was one of the largest networking and entrepreneur training organizations in the planet, been around for decades. I was doing things before we partnered with them, but then we kind of took some of their things that they do in these structured networking things and made sure that a lot of people had fun and met a lot of people. And then the third hour is the guest speaker. So what we found, and then what we sell is what I'll share next. But what we found with these 3-hour meetings, it's like some people came just to schmooze. Others came because they were introverts. Like the first hour was extroverts, the second hour was introverts, and they would be able to network through these processes. And then a lot of people just came for the speaker. They'd come for the whole event. But the point is you're catching 3 different types of people that want to show up for the event. Introverts, extroverts, and then people that want to hear a speaker. I'm oversimplifying, but I think you get what I'm saying. And that really worked. You'd make some money selling the boots, $100, $200 for the 3-hour event, whatever it is, sell 5 or 10 of them, and just from the event, I could make a couple $1,000 sometimes. I'd make, $1,500 from this 3-hour event. And then sell whatever it is you're going to sell on the back. Depends who you are or how you structure it. It could be, text us your number if you want a free consult. Whatever it is, go to facemydragon.com. For me, goes straight to a scheduling page inside of ClickFunnels with my Calendly. It just depends where you want to send them and what you're selling.
And so does that come like in the form of like you giving a presentation as well? Or is it more like just kind of an announcement like, hey guys, I'm running the event, and like, if you want to get more about this?
Well, remember, maybe it's not clear, but I was always the MC. They saw me more than everybody. I was running the whole thing. I'm having fun. We're keeping it really interactive. That's the other thing. Don't get up there and just talk at them. You want to keep this interactive, educational, but I made it really community kind of centric. We were all in this together. And then so what I did is I brought our director of marketing on. I let her lead the structured networking. Eventually, she led it. She went on to other things, partnered with Lisa Sasevich, and made millions after she kind of started some of her work with me. She'd already been doing stuff, but that helped her, and then she went on. But anyway, so the key is to get multiple people promoting the event. So the guest speaker would be promoting the event. My director of marketing was promoting the event. I was promoting the event. We'd get all these people to promote it. But the speaker would also sell their stuff at the end. So keep in mind, you bring in a pro speaker that's got a really good pitch and a great offer, that $300 to $1,000 range, and they'd sell 10, 20, 50 units there too, and you get 50% of that. So there's revenue there. But the whole time as MC or producer of the event, you could plant the seed, hey, look, early in the event, raise your hand if you want to maybe talk to me about blah, 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 or at the end. But, it kind of depends where you would pitch it throughout the evening.
Got it. Yeah, I've seen other events do something similar with that format and everything. I just wanted to kind of understand. Let's say somebody's listening to this and they're like, I was thinking about doing this. Now I got to exactly do what he's talking about here. So, all right, that sounds good. I want to shift a little bit and talk more about how entrepreneurs can kind of solve their struggles and fears. So many struggle with the fear of failure. Can you provide maybe some actionable steps of what you would do to turn that fear of failing into a way to move forward and be successful with your business?
Yeah. So what I found with a major fear like that, the fear of failure or the fear of public speaking or the fear of charging high fees or the fear of technology or the fear of talking on camera, all of these things are deeper fears than that. And that's what I've really been exploring for the last decades as a leader in transformation. It's not the fear of public speaking. It's one of the 5 fears, or what I call dragons, that I've come up with. And that's imposter, scarcity, value, unheard, and critics. So it tends to be one of those 5 in my experience that stops somebody from building the business they want or getting on camera. Even me, I still bump into these things every day. One or all of them. We're all navigating these. So, but the fear of failure, that's probably something deeper. I would create the invitation to you and anybody watching this and listening. If you have a fear of failure, what are you really afraid of? Is it that you'll let your wife down, your parents down, your kids down, you down in some way? Typically, it's going to be someone else. It's not even really us. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be embarrassed that I put all this time and energy in And then I was found out as an imposter or a fraud, or I don't sell as many clients as I thought I would. Oh my gosh, or nobody's listening to my message. It's falling on deaf ears, right? So that's what I found. Or I get criticized if I'm, putting my message out there, and I don't want to experience any of these things. Ultimately, I'm going to end up as a failure. But I want to go deeper there for a second.
Sure.
And that deeper thing is, like I'd mentioned, who are you trying to somehow get validation from or approval from? If I'm just successful, then my mom will love me. If I'm just uber free and traveling the world, then dad will respect me, or my older brother or older sister or my pastor, or whoever these people are in our lives that have this sort of energy over us. That's what I'd recommend you take a look into. And where did you learn that? So something that I would recommend is something called pattern tracing. You want to kind of go back to where you learn that fear or that thought. And it's always going back to your childhood to really understand who is that voice that says, you're never going to make it, or you're going to fail. And if you fail, then you're a piece of whatever. Like, find that, have the courage to go and face your dragon. And that's really what my brand is all about, is removing all this stuff that we do, AI and technology and social media and all this crap. What's actually underneath that we need to be courageous enough to look and face, to really make friends with it, because we don't want to slay our dragon. We want to face it and become friends with it. We want to turn on the light in the dark room where that dragon's in there just fucking ready to kill you. And that's what we want to do. We want to turn the light on. Our shadow is our friend, but we need to illuminate the room.
Got it. Yeah, that sounds good. So how about then with the criticism? That's something that entrepreneurs can encounter even like when they start to become more successful. So how do you feel that somebody could use criticism as a tool, or like flip that around instead of letting the negative comments kind of get to you?
Yeah, that's interesting. There's two parts to that. So the first part is sort of the fear of success. And that's actually what the critic's dragon is if you do achieve the dream, you'll be criticized, or your personal life will suffer in some way. So we're afraid that if we, and I don't know if any of this is right. This is just from being as a leader in this since 2005 and working with thousands of people throughout the years. Like, most of these seem to be kind of running all of us, right? Including me. So there's two parts. The fear of success. So who am I to have this level of success? I'm just going to fuck it all up again and self-sabotage. I just did another podcast kind of around self-sabotage. I failed in the past, so therefore I'm going to screw up again. That's just what I do, right? So that fear of success, why even try? Because I'll probably just fail again. Or I'm going to get so successful, there'll be nothing to strive for anymore. And then what? And so many people, I guarantee some of the people watching this and listening right now have experienced that. They've gotten their success, whatever success meant to them, the money, the followers, the blah, 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 right? And then they get there and they realize it's really not what they thought it was going to be. It's almost like the high isn't there. The journey is, we need to learn to embrace the journey and enjoy the journey to success, whatever our definition is, because most of the time when we get there, it's wah, wah. It's not a big deal. So that's one thing I would have you check in with. Again, what's driving you? What's your motivation? Are you seeking something external? Because if you are, that's going to lead you to this flat kind of, okay, there we are. So how to flip the critics, the second part of the question. Criticism, make it fuel. Learn to laugh and play when things are challenging. And I know it's so hard, but levity is so important. Reframing challenges, like I'm getting chills right now. It's like reframing the criticism into, that's so funny. Look at this person. That's pretty funny. That was clever. Having the ability to laugh at ourselves and to turn fear into fuel and criticism into fuel. And it's not easy, but it's worth it once you can figure it out.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. That's a great way to look at it. That reframing is interesting. Actually, as you were describing that, it reminded me of a couple like hurdles that I've gotten over in my business. Maybe more so in the like scarcity side than the critic side of worrying about, well, what happens if it's too
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
And I think like early on, there's a lot of things I've tried where like I felt at first, well, I can't do this because what if it's too successful? And nowadays, my argument to that is like, we'll figure it out when it's too successful.
Yeah,
Then
exactly.
that's when you figure out the problem. That's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But often, like we stop ourselves for such a silly reason of thinking like, oh well, I can't do this because when it's successful, there will be a problem. Like a concrete example of that is back in 2013, we launched a print business, and we had these different partners, and it's still around today. And I remember like wanting to start that since maybe like 2011, and it took me 2 years to actually move forward with it. And the reason I didn't was because I was worried that there's going to be so many orders, and the
Yes.
printer didn't have an API at the time that would allow us to connect to. And so we would have to manually add the orders, and it would just be too hard to do. And then I realized, you know what, that would be really great if that's such a big problem. And then I'm sure I can work with them to like, we'll figure something out. And we launched it and we did the orders manually, and we were doing them manually, completely manually for
Wow.
years. And it
Wow.
worked. Like it wasn't that big of a problem.
Cool.
And so, and it didn't turn into a massive business, but it wouldn't have even happened if like I sat and like got stuck with that fear.
It's so true, and that's really what the personal life will suffer component of that critics dragon is. Because maybe you've been there before. You seem pretty young, but I've had businesses. I'm 50 now, almost 51 in a month. Like at 19, starting businesses, we didn't have any tech. It was your hustling. So the busier you got, the busier you got. And certainly, I've trapped myself. And maybe you were just simply afraid you were going to trap yourself and be like, oh my gosh, I'm working day and night, in this Amazon ship business, right? Like, so I think it's a very valid fear. And that's where, obviously we've got mentors and other people that can help sort of build the business with the end in mind and make sure we don't totally trap ourselves. That'll
Yeah.
alleviate some of the stress and fear that you're talking about too, right? Building it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, but I mean, that's a good point because like I do really value balance and maintaining that and everything. But yeah, once you learn that like if you're aware of things, like that's enough, I think,
Yeah.
in most cases.
Yeah.
Like being aware that like this could be a problem, but then also realizing that you don't have to confront it necessarily until it does become a problem because it might not become a problem. So
You bring up such a good point, dude, and it's just leap and the net will appear, man. You've got to jump. But there is something I also want to say that I find is super mission critical as entrepreneurs, and that's as my friend and mentor Alex Mendozian, one of the smartest marketers in this space for years. Not sure you know Alex, but probably before your time. But he says running enthusiastically in the wrong direction. Don't do that. I like to say it's better to walk down the right path than it is to run down the wrong one, right? But I mean, all these are relevant. So it's this interesting paradox of you got to jump and figure it out, build a plane while it's flying, blah blah blah. We could say all these sentences, right, or sayings, but there's also truth to building it correctly. But you're right, we got to fucking jump. So I'll say this: the hashtags I use are face your dragon, take the leap, break free. So face your shit, jump, and then you'll break free. If you don't do it in that sequence, you're never going to get there. And that's really what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, that's great. I like that. All right. So how about imposter syndrome then? That fear of being kind of called out as a fraud. I think course creators, coaches, especially, this is something that, I mean, every entrepreneur goes through it likely at some kind of amount, but especially those trying to teach others. It's easy to get worried and say, oh, I'm not really the best at this or something like that. So what techniques have you found effective for fighting that?
Yeah, well, we can compare ourselves all day long to the Brendan Burchards of the world, or the Alex Hormozis, or the anyone that's been uber successful in this space, and that comparison can really stop us. And of course, we're going to look like an imposter next to Tony Robbins. I mean, even the biggest names in our space are like, man, that guy's just killing it. He's so much better than me, and I'm a decent speaker. I like to think I'm naturally talented, certainly trained in it some, but the point is, anytime we do something new and compare ourselves to someone who's been there and doing it for a long time, we're going to experience the imposter syndrome. And that's okay. I wanted to let us all off the hook that if you have imposter, scarcity, value, unheard critics, it's okay. Just learn to love them. Learn to notice them. Like you'd mentioned, awareness first, always. Like, okay, there it is again. Okay, thank you for showing up. Let me notice what I can do differently. Where can I love myself more? Where can I accept myself more? How can I recognize that it's okay, I'm new in this. It's okay. I'm going to feel the imposter syndrome. Like, just name it, own it. What you resist persists. What you're pushing away is just going to push back. If I pull on your arm, you're going to pull back twice as hard. It's just what our nervous system does. If we're resisting something, it's going to amplify it. So we just want to breathe into it. Fear is excitement without the breath. And again, Joseph Campbell, the cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek. So if whatever we're most resisting and most afraid of are the very things that'll set us free. So if imposter, fear of public speaking, oh my God, who am I to do this? I'm not going to make any clients. We want to lean into it. Fear means go. All these things mean we just need to lean in. We need to love it. We need to embrace it. Try to make nice with the imposter syndrome and make it your friend.
Yeah, that's great. I actually want to draw attention to this is at least the second time that you've mentioned about like the breathing, right? And so I think that is really important. Have you heard of Dr. Andrew Weil?
Yes.
He's written some like health books and things. So I read some things from him talking about like the importance of breath and things like that. And like for anybody listening to this, I think that there's an interesting mix of how people take it, because sometimes people think like, okay, starting to talk about breathing, like does that mean like do I have to start meditating? Is this going to get into like some kind of like hippie woo woo type thing? Yeah. And it's not about that. It can be about that, whatever you want it to be, but like the idea is like we're all humans. You need to breathe. Like that's an important thing. You need oxygen going through your brain and your body. And sometimes when we're in these moments of stress or fear, like we're not breathing, we're actually holding our breath. And so if you consciously think about that, there might be times where you realize like, oh, actually I'm not really like taking a breath right now. And so like the act of consciously doing that can really make a difference on just you as a human being.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean, the thing about meditating and doing breath work and doing other somatic therapy work, like anything that gets you breathing will program you physiologically, neurologically. You'll remember intense situations to breathe. You'll be breathing on autopilot more throughout the day, but under intense fight, flight, or freeze moments, you're just gonna, oh yeah. You're going to be so much more programmed and conditioned to breathe. But you're right. Just us bringing this up, I guarantee people watching this have taken a breath as soon as I stopped or we slowed down enough. Because we're all holding our breath, especially when we're scared at some level. And we're as entrepreneurs, we're dealing with stress all day long. Many will drink it away or smoke it away or sex it away or social media it away. But I'm sober most of the time by design. And it's really intense, but I'm able to use a lot of the chemicals the stress chemicals, I'm able to sort of transform them into fuel.
Got it. Yeah. All right. I've got one more question for you before we go. And that is that I like to have every guest ask a question to the audience. So if you could ask our audience anything, whether it's something that you're just kind of curious about or something that you want them to like think about more introspectively, what would that be?
It's really simple. What are you most afraid of and most resisting doing right now? What is that? because that is your moneymaker. It's your gift to humanity. It's your purpose on the planet. So whatever you are most resisting and most afraid of, and I'm not saying like, I get it. There's things that we shouldn't be doing as entrepreneurs. Like if you don't know how to build a website, don't go bash your head in WordPress for freaking 3 weeks trying to figure it out. It's good to know it. I know it pretty well. I give myself a B- in it. You know, I'm a great copywriter. I still hire copywriters. I'm a great graphic designer now with AI and Canva and everything else, but I'm not going to do it all the time. It's good to know these things. I'm not saying become an expert in everything, but what I'm saying is really notice that one thing that you know you could be doing more of and should be doing more. I'm going to should all over you. Absolutely. That's what we want to lean into and where we want to go.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
I think that's a really great thing to think about.
Yeah.
I've noticed myself realizing things like that. Like still, even after doing this for like 15 years, you still realize these things and say, I got to make sure that that's the thing I got to do, because that's the thing that I keep worrying about or thinking that I'm some way uncertain or feel fearful of.
Yep.
Awesome.
Eat that frog too. That's a great book. Doing the thing you're most sort of resistant to do first thing. Eat the frog. I think it's called Eat the Frog. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, Brad, before we get going, where else can people find you online?
So all over social media, but faceyourdragon.com. You can see the podcast there with all the amazing guests. I think you guys will really appreciate listening to some of those podcasts with some of my celebrity friends. I need to get Michael Gerber up there. If E-Myth, he came up as we were talking about something earlier, and I didn't mention that. I interviewed him a long time ago too. I should probably pop that up there too. Faceyourdragon.com, and then there's a quiz to discover the number one hidden fear stopping you from earning what you're worth. That's on the site. Or you can just go straight to couragequiz.com. And that actually takes you to a quiz you get your quiz results, and then it takes you to a training that's specific to you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, Brad.
Thanks for having me. It was great.